Welcome, everyone. We have Brother Edwin Noyes with us today to speak on this topic of alternative and mystical healing therapies. Are they medically safe and spiritually sound? We know that there are many healing arts, but only one of which God approves. And so, without further ado, I turn it over to Brother Noyes.
Welcome, everyone, to the mini seminar today. My name is Edwin Noyes. I've been a physician practicing for 40 years in a small town in Oregon, about 30 miles from Portland, Oregon. I have been in general practice. During those years, I spent 2 years in the Army, went to Vietnam, was a medical physician there. When I returned 2 years later, I went to a short-term mission practice in Phuket, Thailand, a small island with a small hospital, and then returned back to the general practice. In the early and late years of 1960s and the early 1970s, patients began to ask we physicians about certain new type of therapies that were being presented, not by doctors at this time, but more by lay people. And it was the time of the hippie movement. The New Age movement was coming in, and frequently we would be asked about acupuncture, meditation, a variety of therapies. And I, as a physician, had not heard of these previously, and the physicians I associated with were in a similar situation as I was. All of us knew very little or pretty much nothing about these practices. I suspected the power, if they had power, if they worked, was probably the power of hypnotism, but I couldn't be sure. And when people would ask about them, I just didn't want to say something that I didn't have absolute proof. And over a period of more than 20 years, this went on. I was searching, studying, looking, excuse me, for answers to give to my patients and to know myself exactly what it was. And I just couldn't find what I needed to understand it. It did not make medical sense. The therapies, the different type of approaches did not blend in with the knowledge of physiology, physics, and chemistry that I had learned in medicine. And so this was a quandary. And then in the mid 1990s, I found a little book written by Ernest Steed. He had been a general conference temperance leader for 25 years, and he wrote a little book called 2B1. Lincoln Steed, his son, had helped him write this book. This little book gave me the foundation principles of the Eastern worldview, the pagan philosophies and religions, and therein I saw the answer to the questions about these therapies that had become more frequent and becoming mainstream. And so today I'm going to share with you the foundation principles which Ernest Steed presented in his book that helped me see and be able to come to a conclusion as to the origin and to the nature of these quasi-therapies that were becoming very popular. Now, let me read a moment from a list I made of the different therapies that I covered when I wrote my books. There are scores of others, but these are the most common and so you will have a better idea of what we're talking about when we speak of alternative therapies. That simply means it hasn't become standard, hasn't been proven to be truly effective in a scientific way. So there can be some alternative therapies that are nothing wrong with physical therapy or hydrotherapy, some of these. But this, I want to talk about the mystical ones. We talk about a mystical healing. So let me read here. the word astrology. And actually, all of the Eastern therapies are based in astrology. Their own books teaching about them state that they're based in astrology. Acupuncture, applied kinesiology, aromatherapy, Ayurveda, biofeedback, chakras, crystal healing, divinations, different divinations, essential oils, homeopathy, hypnotism, iridology, martial arts, meditation, Eastern type meditation, mindfulness meditation, Qigong, reflexology, Reiki, Shiatsu, Tai Chi, yoga and its various exercises. These are the ones that I covered in my book because they're the most common, but there are many, many others on there. Now, for the past 27 years, I've had the privilege of sharing what I understand about these therapies and their spiritual danger in many parts of the world, many places, United States, on television of 3ABN and Better Life Television, many camp meetings and some major camp meetings, various nations, Canada, England, Netherlands, Germany, Ukraine, Russia, India, Serbia. These areas I've had the privilege of presenting to the church people this subject matter. The first chance I had was in Russia in 1999. The division asked me to come and present this topic to all of their health educators of all of the Soviet Union, 13 nations. And so that was the beginning of presenting these facts, which I will share today. Now, today I'm going to be sharing with you the lecture that I would give on number 4. If I were to give a seminar, this would be number 4. The subject is built. The first night, I would present the health message and the results of it that God has given the church. The end results have shown that we are leading the world in health and healing. And we contrast that with the Eastern type therapies that are coming in as if they were a gift from God, but they have no history of benefiting mankind. Even after millennia of use, they have no history, no scientific showing them to be valuable to those civilizations. And so we'll go from there to the next lecture. It would have been showing the great deception at the Garden of Eden. And then at the end of time, the great deception. So 2 deceptions. Number 3 lecture would be showing the foundation principles of the Eastern worldview. And we will touch on that this morning, but not as depth as we did at full lecture. And then the Sabbath 11 o'clock service was the lecture I'm presenting now, which will show you the spiritual danger. The emphasis will be not going into detail on the different therapies, but to show how they have come down through time into the Christian civilization and their purpose. Their purpose is to bring a change of our understanding of worldviews, bringing the Eastern worldview into the Western civilization in a deceptive manner, and it has worked like a charm on there. So let us proceed with the lecture, the alternative and mystical healing therapies. Are they medically sound? And are they spiritually safe? This is the question we wish to answer this morning. Now, I was challenged one time that in presenting this topic, I was incorrect. I should be preaching only Christ and Him crucified. That evening, after this very rude challenge from an individual, I thought about it. And so I thought of certain Bible verses. Am I correct in taking time, these many years of sharing this with the world, writing books to expose it. And so 1 John 4, 1 and 2 came to my mind. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. And by this ye know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God. And then Paul wrote to Timothy, says, now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. And he wrote to the Corinthians, and he talked about the different gifts of the Spirit. And so we have here in verse 10, chapter 12, 1 Corinthians, to another, the working of miracles, to another, prophecy, to another, discerning of spirits, to another, different kinds of tongues, to another, the interpretation of tongues. So it sounded like they had problems even back in their day with understanding some of these spirits. And then it continues in the 2 Corinthian book, for what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness?
Excuse me,
What
Brother
harmony is
Lewis.
there?
Are
Yes,
you showing your slides now?
yes. Are you seeing them?
No, we're not. So just pause 1 minute. If you go to the little green box that says share screen,
Let's see if I can get back there. Can't get it now?
no?
Let's try it here. How are we doing?
Yes, we see your screen, but the PowerPoint is not up.
All right, I'll bring it up. Give me a moment. Hmm. Can't find my little arrow disappears on me.
I see it it's moving close to the Z on Zoom. Now it's moving down.
Because I can't see it. Oh, now I see it. All right. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Fortunately, that was just the verses. And now we go to the next verse, Ephesians 5, 8 to 11. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of light. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. After all of these verses, I felt convinced that God had given me a small duty to do, that I should proceed and share with people what I had learned. And my feeling of being wrong in presenting left me, and it's not returned. Let's go down to the Garden of Eden with the serpent in the tree. We know this. We've seen these verses many, many times. The serpent says, you shall not die, a foundation of spiritualism, but also you shall become wise like God. Now, we've always read that, but we have not contemplated much. We've not talked about that, but this is a very potent part of the Eastern worldview, that you will become a God. You are a God, but will increase that blessing. These two together, you do not die, and you become a God, is one of the very foundational principles of the deception of the devil down through time. It's very prominent today. There was another part. If you go to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we learn, okay, They didn't know evil before sin entered, but it's more than that. Ernest Steed brings it out that the blending of good and evil together is the modus operandi of the devil's deceptions. God plus Lucifer would be superior. Lucifer in heaven says he could tweak God's law and make it better and make it superior. So the whole atmosphere, the whole teachings of the universe was good, love of God, selflessness. And so the harmony that was in heaven, that was in the universe, would be characterized by the word good or the love of God. Evil is the opposite, selfishness. And adding those two together, the devil says that makes something superior. And you see there that circle of harmony, that's a symbol of that particular concept. We'll look at that a little more a bit later. Now, we want to look at the word spiritualism, expand the meaning a bit. We think of somebody making contact with the dead, and that definitely is what the dictionary would give you a definition. But if you go to chapter 34 of Great Controversy, the expansion of spiritualism is greater. So let us look here. First one, man is a creature of progression to godhood. This is found in that chapter. Each mind judges itself, and the judgment will be right because judgment of self is what is done. The throne is within self. All are unfallen little gods, demigods. And we have divine within. Divinity within is a characteristic teaching. The teaching also denies the divinity of Christ, denies divine origin of the Bible. Any just and perfect being is Christ. Life continues after death of the body. Then the teachings of reincarnation is a part of this spiritualism. Communication is possible with the deceased. Talking in tongues. True knowledge puts man above the law. God does not condemn. So in that chapter, all of these are used as helping define the word spiritualism as her writings continue to expose. Now, I want to take you back to way back in time to the ancient city of Babylon, where the alteration of God's plan of salvation was changed, and eventually we have what we call the pagan civilization, the nature worshiping religions. The devil wanted to be known as the creator, so he separates God from the story of creation, and he says there's a great cosmic power that permeates the universe, permeates everything in the universe. It's totally separate. There is no living body. It's in a non-entity far as the individual. And this has 100 names: divine principle, universal intelligence, universal energy. And the most common we hear would be qi from the Chinese. They call that power qi. And this qi, or this divine principle, the creative power, as they say, actually is supposed to have two sides to it, the good and the evil, the male, the female. And this symbol is symbolizing that concept. This is the foundation of our origins. And we go next from here to this, showing that when this two-sided power, kind of like a coin, has an image on one side and an image on the other. And when that two-sided power properly become oneness, then all of creation occurred. The cosmos, earth and man came about. And that little circle of harmony is a symbol of that concept. I one time worked with a Yip Kok Do, a Chinese man he was in Singapore then, now he's in Indonesia, and gives lectures on the same subject. And so he let me use one of his slides, and this slide comes from his presentation. The black circle Here's the bad. The white circle stands for good. You put a little black in the white, here is the bad that's got good in it. Or the good has the bad in it. And then you have the black with the white. You put them together, you have the circle of harmony, the symbol of the beginning of life. It's a symbol of life. And it's a little different than we think of. We've often thought of it as being simply standing for harmonious conditions, but it's deeper than that. Now, I need to get rid of this little there. This is an extremely important symbol and a symbol of these symbols here for us to understand. I think it will help a great deal as we go through our presentation. In this philosophy that we've just presented, where the good and the bad get together, the yin and the yang, and creation occurs, then it's taught that there is correspondence, there is association, there is sympathy between them all. This is the foundation for those things we see here on the right: astrology, nature worship, sun worship, paganism, neo-paganism, pantheism, panentheism. Let's look at this. Think of that line that connects them as being a neon light tube. And at each corner of this triangle of neon light tube, the tube has been twisted into one to form the earth, the other to form man, and the other to form the cosmos. But there is this fluid flowing between them, the electrical power that gives light into all of these. Now, this is similar to the concept they have of astrology, that the creation of the universe came about from the blending of the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang, and that there is instantaneous connection, correspondence between the cosmos, the earth, and man. And that is the foundation where they can develop the concept of astrology, the relationship of the cosmos to man. Nature worship is built upon that principle. Paganism, neo-paganism of today, pantheism, that particular power in that neon tube is God, so everything is made of God, therefore everything is God. Now, in the Christian world, they say, well, we don't quite accept that, but they say, well, God left a bit of his divinity within us, and that's called panentheism. That's very popular, very widespread in Christianity today, a divinity within. Now, if you look over to the far left, you see the circle of harmony, again, symbolizing this concept. But that little symbol up above it is a symbol that supposedly when this creation came about, there was a sound that occurred. Aum. And that's a symbol representing that sound, a frequency. So if you get involved into therapies that are involving frequencies, this is its origin. It's not found in science, but it says that every entity, every person, every entity out there has a frequency. This is the foundation of it, all from this philosophy. Let us go to the next. The cosmos was called the macrocosm. Man is considered the microcosm, but man is considered the center of all of this. This is Chinese traditional medicine. It's the concept in the Ayurveda as well. This is very important to understand this belief, to realize why they developed certain therapies. Now let's go back to the day of the hospital or the Battle Creek Sanitarium, the days of John Kellogg, 1880s, 1890s. Dr. Kellogg was presenting this panentheism we mentioned a bit ago, divinity in everything. And here's what he wrote in the General Conference Bulletin. This will give us a little understanding. What I'm trying to do is to show you that what he was teaching, the foundation, the principles of what he's teaching, is the principles that are involved and behind these variety of Eastern therapies. They're one and the same in the basic concept. Let us go forward. We have here the evidence of a universal presence. That presence he's referring to the divine divinity within an individual. We have evidence of a universal presence, an intelligent presence, an all-wise presence, and an all-powerful presence, a presence by the aid of which every atom of the universe is kept in touch with every other atom. This force that holds all things together, that is everywhere present, that thrills throughout the whole universe, that acts instantaneously through boundless space, can be nothing else than God himself. What a wonderful thought that the same God is in us and in everything. This is what caused the loss of the Battle Creek Sanitarium. This teaching it lost almost brought the church down. Loma Linda started afterwards to fill its place. Now, there was a comment made by the Spirit of the Lord, the messenger of the Lord, about this teaching that Dr. Kellogg was presenting to the people in the Battle Creek and to the church itself. She says, already there are coming in among our people spiritualistic teachings that will undermine the faith of those who give heed to them. The theory that God is an essence pervading all nature is one of Satan's most subtle devices. It misrepresents God, is a dishonor to his greatness and majesty. The reason I show the teachings of Dr. Kellogg, how that he believed this divinity of God was in us in everything, is the same basic teaching we get out of the Eastern religions relevant to their healing mechanisms. Although they do not have a living God in it, they have a power that is the creative power. So they're really one and the same in philosophy. The pagan civilization, the medical dogma and practices are based on astrology and dualism to balance that power. We were created, they say, with a positive and negative, a yin and the yang within us. And this dogma of the vital force, the chi, when it gets out of imbalance, they teach that's what caused disease, that all disease is a result of an imbalance of this force, the vital force, and 100 other names that it has synonyms. Many methods were used to attempt to restore the balance of that energy. And those attempts are those healing mechanisms of the East. We'll go a little further here. The Bible tells us we are not to amalgamate with evil, we are to separate. There is no place for evil in God's system. But the counterfeit system, and this is a counterfeit system which started way back in ancient Babylon. It's a system that teaches a salvation that the spirit will go to nirvana. But and their method of healing is to balance energy, that disease is an imbalance. But the Bible teaches something different. The Hebrew nation, now we're going to, first here, you're going to wonder where I'm going, and you're going to think that I've lost it. But stay with me to the end and you'll understand. So the Hebrew nation, they believed in a living being as the creator God. And health was attained by following Jehovah's spiritual and physical laws. And we all believe that. And we know how valuable that has been. And then out there in the desert, this comment was given by God. If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and wilt do that which is right in his sight, will give ear to his commandments, keep all of his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord that healeth thee. Exodus 15:26. We are very familiar with those verses. Let's take the Hebrew nation that was taken to Babylon for 70 years by Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of the 70 years, the Persian government allowed them to return to Canaan. And following the return, sometime later, nobody knows exactly when, but a secret society was found to be among the people of Israel. It was called the Kabbalah. You heard that name. It's spelled many different ways, but this was a secret society down through time, not so secret anymore. The Kabbalah was formed by combining mysticisms of Babylon, Judaism, and Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism was a kind of a contemporary of Daniel, and it took part of the Old Testament that also mixed in some mysticism, and it became the dominant religion of Persia and later even of Babylon. Mithraism, the fire temples was involved. So this combination formed a concept there, and the Kabbalah promoted mystical healing practices based on dualism. So here we have this mystical formation of a society, and this is their official symbol. And this Kabbalism is the key of the occult of the occult sciences. They have the doctrine of theosophy, which is a mystical insight of God. They have a magical system of healing, and alphabet letters put in a certain order and so forth, supposed to have power. Mystical arrangement of numbers. Pronouncement of the ineffable name has power. They used amulets and talismans, and they use many mineral compounds. I'm simply showing you that down through these secret societies, there was a system of teaching of type of mystical healing. Here is a symbol or a sample of one of their mysticism healings. They would put this writing at the head of a bed of a mother with her newborn, and this was to protect against the evil eye. Another one to protect against illness and the evil eye. These were ceramic bowls that were formed for people that were getting married, newlyweds. They would make these bowls with certain writings in them, and they would be given to the newlyweds for good luck, charms. These Jewish incantation bowls, such as these, were used as magic charms, word magic, to invoke divine intervention in matters of sickness, personal disputes, and love. About 2,000 of those bowls are still in circulation. My wife and I were traveling in Israel, and we were up north of the Sea of Galilee, maybe 15 or so miles. And I saw a sign on the road pointing to a road that turned off from the main highway, taking you up to the city of Safat, and it said the home of the Kabbalah. Ah, I said, we're going up there. So this is a Palestinian city, a small one, but there is a Jewish section. And so there is a alleyway that takes off of this main street. And we went down, and looking down that alleyway, they see a sign that says, do not take pictures on the Sabbath. And then we looked up the street inside that alleyway, and here is a row of houses. This is an old Jewish section, but it's the home of the teachings and the teachers of the Kabbalah. I met one of their teachers and visited a short time with him. And this is a synagogue in this area, the home of the Kabbalah. Now, let's go back to Simon Magus, who requests power from Peter. You remember him in Acts 8? And Peter told Simon to get lost because he wanted to buy the power to be able to put hands on others and bring the Holy Spirit to them. But he is known as the one that formed Gnosticism, a teaching that gave early Christianity a difficult time. The Gnostics infiltrated Christianity and caused confusion. Now, the Gnostics were born of the Kabbalist. Simon Magus, Acts 8, he was the founder of the Gnostics, practitioner of mystical healing, pantheism, monism, and nature worship. He deified humanity. He became a sorcerer to Emperor Nero, and Nero even made a statue put alongside the river in Rome of Simon Magus. But here we have, he's a practitioner of mystical healing. Remember, Acts talked about the people there thought he was the great one, and he was doing magic and healing in that time. But he continued on. He followed Paul and gave Paul a bad time. Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. That's one of the major books of the Masonry organization. It has 40 pages on the Gnostics and its relationship to Freemasonry. It speaks to the origin of Gnostics as being out of the Kabbalah and Eastern religions. Remember, we're following healing mechanisms, healing practices coming down through these organizations. So they're these secret societies which started in ancient Babylon and then picked up by the Kabbalah, Gnosticism. These are major ones. There are scores of minor ones, offshoots from these. Manichaeism out of Persia, various Islamic secret societies, Knights Templars picked up on the Crusades from the Islamic societies, these teachings, the Rosicrucians, and what's common among us today is the Freemasonry. Now, Gnosticism, again, our interest is this type of healing that we're seeing today. Where did it come from? And so this individual, George Dillon, is telling us the teaching of Gnosticism. It is Luciferian occultism, and it controls Freemasonry. Luciferian occultism is therefore not a novelty, but it bore a different name in the early days of Christianity. It was called Gnosticism, and its founder was Simon the Magician. These secret societies, they subverted Christianity for 2,000 years. What was their goal? Why were they there? The devil, of course, organized these, but the goal is to return all religions to the ancient religion. And healing is the right arm approach to attract people to their teachings, to their theosophy, their mystic insight of God. And it promotes Luciferic worship in a disguised form. So what we're looking at, the movement of these quasi-healing mechanisms, we call them alternative or complementary, that have become very popular. Most of them out of the East, some out of the West, but they are being used as the right arm approach to change the worldview of the Judeo-Christian worldview to that of the Eastern worldview, that of the worldview where there is no living God, but there is a mighty power that is the creator, and that you can manipulate this power, this God, to promote health. This symbol I've took out of a book, and Gary Kaw was the author. He understood this, and so with his permission, I have used this page, and I put it in my books. He points out here that the ancient mystery religions in ancient Babylon, time of the Tower of Babel and afterwards, became the foundation, and from there came the pagan religions that spread to the entire world when the dispersion occurred. And on your far right, you see these three boxes. They're representing the Eastern worldview that formed from those ancient religions and ancient times. And then down along this comes the ancient mystery religions, Kabbalism, Gnosticism, down to the Freemasonry and the Illuminati at the time of the French Revolution. This area right here now is at a very important time. Even the book Great Controversy deals a whole chapter on this activity. From this time, there was a spirit, a teaching that rose that has been a problem for the world all the time. Prior to this, the devil fought Christianity, fought the knowledge of salvation by persecution, by force. Now he joined in and act as if he's teaching the true religions. But out of that time came Marxism, American and European secret societies, actually 40 to 50 different organizations in secret, that are carrying the same philosophy to the world. The Theosophical Society that Ellen White says is spiritualism came out of this, and certain other things. From this was formed and carried down, came forth what we call the New Age movement. Nothing but an enlargement of the teachings that was coming down through the ages. Eventually, they called them this East and West, and now they refer to themselves the teaching of these things as progressives. Excuse me. So here we have in a viewpoint of a person that understood it, what is happening, so that we understand that which is coming from the East is not just something to help us on our physical bodies and health. It's truly an evangelical movement to change our worldview, to get us to accept the worldview of the East. There's a book called The Aquarian Conspiracy, considered to be sort of the foundational book for the New Age movement. And in this book, they tell us that these healing therapies that we're talking about, that I named, are the most effective way to get people to change that worldview. This is not just my words. This is coming from the very foundation of this. So let's look a little more. If I can see if I can get this out of there. Catholicism and divinity of man is what that says. Here is a Bible verse. The Word became flesh to make us partakers of his nature, of the divine nature. We have no problem. That's true for 2 Peter. But if you go to the Catechism, a teaching of the Church, Catholic Church here, 1994, page 116, for the Son of God became man so that we might become God. St. Athenaeus. And then the next quotation, the only begotten Son of God, wanting to make us sharers in his divinity, assumed our nature so that he made man, being made man, might make men gods. So this teaching of man is God, has divinity within, has come down through time, even through the church, the dominant church. All right, the theology of these secret societies, the immortality of the soul, spiritualism, dualism, mixing good and evil, Lucifer, God of light, Adonai, Jesus, God of darkness. It promotes Luciferic worship by use of signs and symbols. And here, healing practices are used to attract people to this theosophy doctrine. People say, well, I don't buy any of that doctrine when I use the acupuncture or these various things. But insidiously, one is accepting that philosophy. There is no power in them. They do not heal by any physiological nature. If there is any healing, it's a spirit healing. And by accepting and utilizing these, we are buying into this very concept, even though we don't realize it. That's the deception of it. Now, if you go to Revelation 11, there was a beast that came out of the bottomless pit. We know that that was the movement of the French Revolution, not the revolution itself, but that teachings that brought it about. The atheistic, spiritualistic revolution took control of France, 1789, led by secret societies, specifically the Masonic Lodge known as the Grand Orient. So through that time, the time of enlightenment was the time of vast spreading of this concept. Now, Napoleon put down the reign of terror after 3.5 years. So that the atheistic, spiritistic movement lost control of the French government after 3.5 years. It moved into many secret organizations, became a worldwide movement, humanism, socialism, communism, many others. That turmoil we see today about us of these anarchists is out of the same basic teaching. But here's what I want you to notice. The doctrine of spiritualism, theosophy, that men are unfallen demigods. This is from the book Education. Men are unfallen demigods, that each mind will judge itself. The worldwide dissemination of the teaching that led to the French Revolution all are tending to involve the whole world in a struggle similar to that which convulsed France. And we go on. The Great Controversy, page 588. Through two great errors, the immortality of the soul and Sunday sacredness, Satan will bring people under his deceptions. While the former, immortality of the soul, while the former lays the foundation of spiritualism, the latter, Sunday sacredness, creates a bond of sympathy with Rome. The Protestants of the United States will be foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism. Now, this movement of the healing is helping to bring this about of spiritualism. It moves into the people of the West, thinking they are doing something for their health, but actually accepting the power, the teachings of the East. And we're told that they, the Protestants, and this will reach over the abyss to clasp the hands of the Roman power, and under the influence of this threefold union, this country will follow in the steps of Rome in trampling on the rights of conscience. And I see this power, this acceptance of many of these healing modalities has moved into the Adventist church in a great manner. Upwards of 30 or more percent of people on different seminars will testify that they have been involved in accepting some of these. It comes in, and sometimes the most pious people, because they want to have some treatment without medicines. And so they become susceptible, not realizing that's not based on science, it's not God's way, and it is accepting the power of the devil counterfeit to be their healing mechanism. And it's really a bad thing, but not realized. They will reach over the abyss to clasp hands with Roman power. And under the influence of this threefold union, this country will follow in the steps of Rome on trampling on the rights of conscience. This is one of the ways that spiritualism moves into the Protestant people and to the Roman power. This is one of the methods. He has several ways of bringing in spiritualism, but this is certainly one that's been, I think our church has been most susceptible to. Through spiritualism, Satan appears as a benefactor of the race, healing the diseases of the people, professing to present a new and more exalted system of religious faith, but at the same time works as a destroyer. This is page 539. The previous comment was 538, so this is the follow through. So this spiritualism, joining with Protestantism, joining with Catholicism, is involved with healing the diseases of the people, professing to present a more exalted system of religious faith. Now, I want to take you to Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. She was a Russian lady that became a leading spiritualist in the late 1800s and early 1900s. She had a part to play in this. She was involved as a member of the Masonic order in France because they had women as members over there. And in 1875, she formed the Theosophy Society that Ellen White says was spiritualism. This a spiritualistic type movement. It was pantheism, monism, actually panentheism, and it was secret for 100 years, came out into the open in 1975. It was the basis of the New Age movement, now referred to as progressives. She was the beginning and the foundation, and then when she died, Annie Besant, also a co-Mason vice president, carried on the teachings. And then when she died, Alice Bailey, who was in America, wrote 20-some books from the guidance of a spirit guide, and that became the doctrine for the New Age movement. So here, by dictation of spirit guides, this lady wrote many books which are the foundational information for the New Age movement. The New Age movement is initiator of and leader of mystical healing teaching and practice in the world. I've been around the world, and this everywhere, those same things I will see. The The churches, every place I went, had facing the same problems we do here among the people. Now, to my office when I was in practice, a big, fancy, very expensive, glossy magazine was sent to my office, very thick. And I had no idea. And it was filled with New Age healing mechanisms. None of the regular medical things, but all of these mystical methods. Nothing else, no advertisements, but just filled with them. New Age, psychology of channeling, so forth. And I wondered, where did they come from? Then they changed the name to East West, the Journal of Natural Health and Healing, body mapping, and so forth. East West meditation goes high tech. I wondered, where did these come from? I didn't put them in my waiting room. I took them out. I even still have them. I saved them. But these were filled with the teachings of the New Age mysticism of healing. Then that book that I got, that graph of the different secret societies, had a page and a copy of a letter one of their friends had written and found the address to who was printing that journal and wrote and wanted to advertise in it. And he got this letter back. And here's the heading. It came from the Supreme Council of the 33rd and last degree of the Masonic Order. So that book, those particular waiting room books came from the Masonic Order, sent to my office free. And then eventually they quit. It gives you an idea of some of the power behind the promotion of these teachings. All right, we have here from Review and Herald, January 15, 1914. There are many who shrink with horror from the thought of consulting spirit mediums, but who are attracted by more pleasing forms of spiritism, such as the Emmanuel movement. That was a mind treatment movement started in the Emmanuel Church, and that's why it was named this. There's still others led astray by teachings of Christian Science and by the mysticism of Theosophy. We've been talking about that. Madame Blavatsky started that. And other Oriental religions. Oh, there are many who shrink with horror from thoughts of consulting spirit mediums, but are attracted by these different methods. A power from beneath is working to bring about the last great scenes in the drama. Satan coming as Christ and working with all deceivableness in those who are binding themselves together in secret societies. Here we have tied together now. I've shown how this philosophy, this teaching has been carried down through the Christian civilization for 2,000 years, wide open in the Eastern civilization, but secretly in the West, the teaching that you have divinity within, and that you can heal yourself by manipulating this power. Today, the mysteries of heathen worship are replaced by the secret associations. Again, the emphasizing this from Review and Herald, January 15, are replaced by the secret associations and seances, the obscurities and wonders of spiritualistic mediums. The disclosures of these mediums are eagerly received by thousands who refuse to accept light from God's word or through his spirit. Believers in spiritualism may speak with scorn of the magicians of old, but the great deceiver laughs in triumph as they yield to his arts under a different form. Very deceptive. Now, Michael Howard wrote a book, The Occult Conspiracy. It's kind of covered up there. It's hard to see. Michael Howard, page 170. He is a believer of the secret societies. He is a member. He's promoting them. But he wrote this book, and I want to share with you some very important comments he makes about the work of these societies. A very important work of the secret societies has always been the ultimate unification of the world religions. This aim was based on the restoration of the pre-Christian mystery tradition. That would be the old apostasy in Babylon, which had been persecuted by the early church, forced to go underground in medieval Europe. and the recognition that all religions had originated in a universal spirituality referred to as the ancient wisdom. That would be the mystery religion that the Bible speaks about of ancient Babylon. He continues, it forms, that's the secret societies, it forms the basis for the ancient Egyptian mysteries, Gnosticism, esoteric Christianity, the Kabbalah, the Hermetic tradition, the alchemy in the societies such as Templars, Freemasons, and Rosicrucians, the occult doctrines of geomancy, alchemy, astrology, and sexual magic taught by these secret societies were used as symbolic metaphors illustrating the progression of the individual from material darkness to the spiritual light of understanding. It's actually going the other way, but that is the teaching. Now in Revelation 16:14, I saw three unclean spirits like frogs. They are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. We just read about how these secret societies, their purpose was to bring all of the religions together. And here we read in the Bible the spirits of devils that are working to do just that. The last great delusion is soon to open before us. Antichrist is to perform his marvelous works in our sight. So closely will the counterfeit resemble the true that it will be impossible to distinguish between them except by the Holy Scriptures. By their testimony, every statement, every miracle must be tested. The basic thing I have run into in the 25 or more years I've been doing seminars on this subject is people say, well, it works, so I know it's of God because I got well and it works. And that settles it. How can you be safe if you accept that something works? We know that the devil can do miracles. You're without defense if one has that as the conclusion. The last great delusion is soon to open for us. Antichrist is to perform his marvelous works in our sight. So closely will the counterfeit resemble the true that it will be impossible to distinguish between them except by the Holy Scriptures. By their testimony, every statement, every miracle must be tested. We are coming right upon a time when Satan is to work with all manner of bewitching influences. And those who are charmed with them now, or give them the least countenance now, will be all ready to be swept right into act a part with the devil then. He is to work miracles, and this wonderful miracle working power is to sweep in the whole world. It is now just beginning. And I can testify that these things that I've been exposing are worldwide. I've seen them. I've seen their church, where they've been in our church worldwide as well. We need not be deceived. Wonderful scenes which Satan will be closely connected will soon take place. God's word declares that Satan will work miracles. He will make people sick and then will suddenly remove from them his satanic power. They will then be regarded as healed. These works of apparent healing, they're not true healing. They don't last. Apparent healing will bring Seventh-day Adventists to the test. Many who have had great light will fail to walk in the light because they have not become one with Christ. The end. I thank you for your attention. And what I have listed here is the link, the address to my website that has 2,700 pages exposing these things in it. That is a phenomenal website, and I'll leave it right there. You may wish to copy it. And I'm open now for any questions.
Thank you so much, Brother Noyes. The way in which you detailed the genealogy to see where all these things come from, and then we're down here at the bottom today, not necessarily understanding their root.
I was confused for 25 years, really confused. I even began to accept some of it till I got that little book from Ernest Steed, which straightened me out. Fabulous little book.
because I've heard so many of those different names, but don't know how they all fit together. And so that was helpful. Also, I'll just let it open up to questions. Are there any questions at this time? You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
Either are confused it completely or too clear to create questions.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your presentation. There's a lot of, I'm a healthcare professional and I'm seeing, as you mentioned, a lot of talk about frequencies. And I've even seen medical missionaries involved in treatments. So I'm just want to be clear. Is there a difference between treatments for based on frequencies or on man, I just forgot my word. Um, Electricity, I guess is the word. Or are they the same? Because I've heard medical missionaries present that we are electrical beings because we have neutrons and negative electrons, et cetera, and that these treatments are on the up and up because they are physical, they aren't based on mysticism because they're addressing the electrical impulses of the body. So is there any light with that, or is it all darkness, or is there discernment needed on a case-by-case basis?
Well,
I hope I was clear with my question.
Yes, I understand what you're bringing forth, and it's a very important question. And it is difficult sometimes to make clear to people because they get such strong beliefs in these things, especially if they feel they have improved from some treatment. It's almost impossible to touch people at that point. The frequencies that the people talk about, there's a diet with frequencies, there is machines that supposedly measure your frequencies and correct the frequencies by putting back in the currents. Those are all mystical.
Okay.
There definitely is electrical activity in the body. We measure the brain waves, we measure the electrical currents that go down through the nerves and so forth. The body has abundance of electricity, but those different treatments are not touching those electrical activities of the body.
I see.
They are deceptive, they are mystical. I would need more time. If you people are interested in this and you want, I can get into some of that type of therapies on individual sessions later on if you desire, because it's such a big area and it's so important. But the frequencies that you hear about, there's a particular machine, the Royal Rife machine, that measures the frequency. This came about from a spiritualist that he was given automatic writing that gave him answers. He built a machine that's supposed to measure your frequencies, and if it's out of whack, certain types of problems, he puts it back in to give it balance, and therefore it can treat things. And that's very popular in our Adventist church, people buying that machine for several $1,000s. It's all spiritual. That's spiritualism, period. I had a close relative about one that wanted to bring one to treat one of my family members, and I said no on that. It's a big field, but in basic answer, the frequencies, stay away from it.
Okay. All right. I would be interested in seeing more, but that's me. And maybe because I have a health professional background and I've worked with medical missionaries and I see them getting into it. So thank you.
Yes.
Sister Andrea, where are you located?
Hello, I'm in Maryland, but I've gone out of state to work with medical missionaries.
Okay.
Can I
Please
also
give
ask
us
a
your email if
question,
you don't
please?
have it. Please go ahead, Sister Lorraine.
Can I talk?
Speak.
Yes. I'm a professional nurse, but I'm also a medical missionary. When you talk about these frequency machines, Are you talking about machines that diagnose or machines that treat?
Well,
Please
this is
clarify there, because there are machines
yeah,
that just diagnose and those that are treating. For an example, medical doctors do use something like diathermy in
diathermy.
the theaters. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, please clarify to me if it's the
Yeah.
same thing, whether for
No,
diagnosis
no.
or for treatment.
Well, let me this is an area that would take some time, but see if I can give a simple answer. There are a number of machines like an ultrasound that is very effective on therapy. Diathermy is putting in heat waves, putting electrical waves in that create heat that are very effective and proper. But there are machines that usually you'll not find them in a doctor's office. There'll be people, well, some of the naturopaths or chiropractors, and usually not a medical medical doctor's office, that will supposedly measure your vibrations or your frequencies, and then it can correct them and tell you what they need. Those there's a variety of names. There's a big group of them on that part. In the Royal Rife was just one on there, but then when doctors order a diagnostic where you do a brain scan, electrical brain scan, it measures the brain waves. That's proper and normal. When you measure the electrical currents of the nerves down the arm or down the leg, those are proper and scientific and not mystical at all. But the machines that are going to correct your frequencies, or they're depending upon your frequencies to make their diagnosis, just stay away from them. That would be to get the different, there's so many of them out there. In my books, I have the names of a lot of those that on that part, and there's a part. But this is a very common problem that people believe in. These machines are great. They it's a confusing thing when we have certain machines that are effective in therapy. There's, like, say, if you have a broken bone that is slow to heal and won't heal, there are some magnetic therapies, alternating magnetic impulses have been used for 70, 80 years to hasten the healing. It stimulates circulation. But a straight magnetic, just put a regular magnet over it, would not do anything. It's a pulsating magnetic impulse. And so that is an effective thing, but oftentimes brings confusion because the devil has worked in what he does. He takes something that's good and he hijacks it, he inserts his dogma in it, and he creates confusion, and people don't realize what they're getting into. It's very, very difficult. But the vast majority of machines you're going to find out there and people using, you can go on the internet and buy them and be a user of them. These are mystical. They're not effective. It's all nonsense. There is supposedly a person that found these different rates of frequency with a machine. Well, that machine was shown to be a bogus too. And so it's not something that in the general sciences of medicine or the general sciences of physics that back up these different frequencies. We don't find it, but it goes back. And as we go deeper into the philosophy you'll find that the teachings of this New Age, the teachings of this mysticism is that there are 7 basic speeds of electrical. This cosmic spirit has 7 different speeds. We were developed out of the slowest speed, the speed of light, that man then was made. Then there are 6 levels of speed above that, which science cannot find or see. It's all mystical in belief. How do people believe it? Well, they they get from intuition, which basically is they connect to the unknown or to the occult and get this information. The book, the most advanced book in the New Age area on this frequency is a book that is about 600 pages. I have one, and it speaks in the beginning that most of the information in it was taken from channeling, from connecting with the spirit world. That'll help you. Any other questions?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So it's just coincidentally, my dentist is recommending a high frequency vibration device to put in my mouth because of I've gotten palate expansion, and upper palate expansion because of grinding my teeth at night. So I've had to wear aligners such as what you find with to expand my upper palate, similar to braces. And now at the end of the therapy, she's recommending a high frequency vibration device. So now I'm wondering if this is something I should
Well,
do.
he might be recommending something that stimulates the tissues by vibration, which would increase circulation. I would be very careful to make a comment about it without knowing more. But what he's most likely wanting to do is stimulate the circulation, like hot and cold contrast baths will stimulate increased circulation of tissues. And there are certain types of, if there's actually a pulsation of vibration of a pulsation, that will stimulate the little capillaries to open up and to increase circulation. So I would be very careful not to make a comment against it till I knew more about it, but that's what I would suspect.
Okay, and this is a FDA dentist as well, so
Yeah, that doesn't protect you.
exactly.
Yeah, because
I understand what you're
yeah,
saying.
but most likely that I would ask him, is that something to stimulate circulation to promote healing? And if so, I have no comments, nothing against that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You see how deceptive it can be, how confusing it can be if a person's not well trained in the sciences and in some of these machines. Boy, people have a lot of faith in machines, but there is a lot of quackery, a tremendous amount of quackery out there on machines. Let me tell you a little story here real quick. I had a daughter that was dying with cancer, and one of my relatives had a detoxifying machine. He wanted to come and treat her. He wanted to treat her first with the Royal Rife, the frequency, and I says, no, the detoxifying was not spiritualism. I knew it was quackery, but not spiritualism. I says, okay, bring that. And so he brings it, and it's a pail of water. You put a little salt in it, and you put some electrical anodes and cathodes in it. So there's electrical current going through it. And then you put your feet in it and you sit there for a half hour. At the end of a half hour, the water is all nice and brown, just like rust. And there's froth on the top and there's black flecks. And boy, it looks like the body has really been cleansed. So this happens, and I tell them, okay, now empty it out, wipe it clean, put the water in it again, put the electrodes in there, put the salt, but no feet this time, and wait a half hour. At the end of a half hour, same thing, but with no feet, which it was high school physics. All the action was the little electrodes in there creating fast rust from the iron of the electrodes. It was causing rust to occur, making the red colored there. But it impressed people that didn't know a little science. It was very simple science, very high school level. But people will pay $30, $40 to sit there and have their body cleansed, and it doesn't touch anything in the body. So that type of thing is just rampant. There's money involved in most of these things. And find somebody that does things for free and might get a little closer to get something quality. But anyway, the world is filled with gimmicks of all types, and it is not easy for people not trained in the sciences, experienced in them, to always know on there. And that's what we hope to help people understand. Any other question? If not, then I'm going to sign off.
Well, we'd really like to thank you. We'll close out with a word of prayer. I mean, I just am blown away with how there's a whole evangelical movement to bring these mystical healing systems, and this has been going on for time immortum. And so it's just incredible and grateful of the way the Lord has provided for us a way of healing outside of the way of Babylon.
That's right. When we contrast what God has given us, which has put us up at the top on the world on the health and wellness list, versus the system that's come from the East that has millennia of use, but zero benefit. Going to China in 1949, if you were born in China in 1949, you could expect on an average of 35 years of life. 50 years later, you could expect 70 years of life. Now, they had the blending and balancing of energy approach for millennia, which hadn't worked, but now they had put in immunizations, clean water, public health issues, which doubled the lifespan in 50 years, not balancing the energy. You see the difference? Acupuncture, you're balancing energy. Yoga, you're balancing energy, moving energy. When you hear of energy medicine, beware.
Yes. And as it was said earlier, it's so prevalent when you're seeking to do, natural, quote unquote, natural healing. So natural healing is not even enough because something doesn't include pharmaceuticals doesn't mean it is good.
That's right.
And we just hope to have you back again soon. So we will be in touch and work on that. And I believe someone said Sister Andrea said she was interested in a deeper dive into a particular aspect. So we'll be in touch and get all the specifics.
Let me share with you that which I find in the churches most widespread today is the essential oils. Now, people say, what on earth? You've really lost your mind. Those are fabulous. You don't understand on there, and it takes up a whole hour presentation to make it clear. But that is the most deceptive thing I find moving through the church almost everywhere today. And that one I would recommend someday we cover for you.
Okay, we absolutely will, because I would definitely need to know about that as well.
Yeah. I didn't touch that subject for some years because it caused so much confusion. And then I took a course for 30 hours of the world's leading people in that field to be sure I was correct in my understanding where I placed it. And then I took a full extra hour of depth in of the philosophy behind it. And there's no question it's out of astrology. So I feel very confident what I present in that. In spite of that, that is what I face. And people really don't like me when I get into that subject. There was circulating 3 pages about me in one whole conference because I interrupted the selling of that essential oils with what I shared. And it's not well accepted on there, but that one is needed on there, not because I like to present it, but because it is so deceptive. I don't blame people for getting caught in it, because they don't realize till they get all the facts behind it. All right, go ahead with your prayer.
Okay, so everyone who is here, we're going to work to bring Brother Noyes here to the area in Maryland, so we will be in touch. Please put your email address in the chat if you're not already on our email listserv, and we will definitely be in touch with you, because we have to, as you said, test every miracle. So we've got to study this thing out of the essential oils and other devices. Let us close with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together. Thank you for the knowledge which you have given your manservant. Thank you for those who've been able to join from near and far and will be able to go back and listen to the recording and learn. And Lord, we know we desire you, and not any deception or ways of the enemy, but it requires that we commune with you and we know the truth, and we know your wisdom and discernment that you give to us so that we can walk away from deception. And we know that you have a healing method for our bodies. Most importantly, we know that we are asleep if those that pass are asleep in you, not aware of anything, and any system that purports that is not of you. We pray for to be with each of us until we meet again. This is our prayer in your name. Thy will be done. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all.
Thank you.